Welcome back to In the House. My name is Mark Shiver. So glad to have you listening, watching, enjoying this video podcast. We have a return guest, Representative Jeff Zenger, District 74, Forsyth County. And Representative Zenger, you did such a great job last time. I've been excited all week long for our time together. So welcome back to In the House.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here again, Mark. A little different this time. I'm not coming to you from my office in Raleigh, but I'm coming to you from my home in the district. All of my kids have grown and gone, so we've got a lot of empty rooms here. So that's where we are today.
All right. Well, good. I've been through that empty thing, and it's kind of takes some getting used to. But
yes, it does.
I was, I got to tell this story real quick. I was in the parking garage the other day going to my car, and I always try to be real careful because there's oil every now and then where people have parked and their cars have leaked oil. And dang, if I didn't slip on one anyway, no matter how careful I try to be, and I took a little tumble, and man, it's just embarrassing when something like that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah, I am too, but I just like, good Lord. Anyway, so, being kept humble, I guess, is the point of all that. But, you have some things that you've been working on that you don't need to be humble about because they're really good things to help people in your district. I think anytime I hear anybody talk about Representative Zenger, it's always very positive. And so one of the things that you were able to accomplish during the long session helps the police in your district. And why don't you talk about that and let us know the progress that you're making to help those who serve to protect us.
Sure, and I should back up and just say, I have a profound respect for the police and troopers, state troopers, everybody in law enforcement. I did, a lot of folks might not know this, but I spent 13 years in Baltimore City doing urban ministry. And while I was there, I saw up close and personal what face our police officers, and it's extraordinary. They are amazing. Anybody that goes and attempts to do that has my respect. And so one of the things that we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years is the police being incredibly disrespected and folks being fired over Facebook comments or different things, and they have no recourse. Regardless of what the circumstance, they have no recourse. And that doesn't mean that all firings for police officers aren't legitimate. I mean, some certainly are.
Right.
But when you have no recourse for talking about really hurting or eliminating or ruining a man's career or a woman's career. So what we did is we did a bill, it's a civil service board that gives police officers the opportunity to appeal. And that was a really big deal. We did it for Winston-Salem and Greensboro. And it's interesting. I didn't realize, I was glad to do it, glad to support it. I've always got Blues back. But it's been interesting as I'm around town and in the district, I meet police officers and they're like, you're the guy. Thank you. And so it played a lot bigger among the police officers than I actually realized that it would. And so really glad to do that. And we need to back our blue. All of our police, I know most of the police forces across the state are down. They have openings. They need folks. We need to do whatever we can to bolster them. Because I tell you what, when you live in a lawless society, you're not free.
Oh my goodness. We went through that period of time, people talking about defunding the police and we don't need the police, and that's just ridiculous. And I hope we don't ever go back there again. And I for one appreciate what you're doing, the support that you're showing tangibly for those who serve and protect, because as you said, not everybody's perfect. Sometimes people need to be let go or whatever. But most of the time, those that are serving are doing so under incredible conditions. And, to have their back is a good thing. So thank you for doing that. I think that we're in I can't remember the philosopher, but he said, somebody back in the day said, we're in interesting times. We live in interesting times. And I think we sure do. And over the next few
Yeah.
months, there's a lot of things that are on the minds of the American people, that are on the minds of the people here in North Carolina. Even in your district, people have things that they're thinking about that are important to them. During this time, I call it the off season, but the interim between the long session and the short session, as you've been traveling around in your district and meeting with people, talking to folks, what is front of mind? What are people concerned about?
Yeah, I tell you what's front of mind is immigration. It's pretty amazing. So I was in the construction industry for 29 years, and one of the things that I dislike about serving is I miss seeing all my contractors that work for me. And we developed relationships over the years. We watched our kids grow and so on.
Yeah.
So I recently got together with a fellow that's worked with me for 15 years plus, and him and his son, who I watched grow up, who's now in the business with him. They're Hispanic gentlemen. I just love these guys. And so we got together for lunch and we chit chatted and we caught up. And here's what was really interesting. We got little ways into our lunch and his son said, Jeff, we have got to do something about immigration. It is killing us. He said, I'm telling all of our guys that work for us that they need to walk the straight and narrow, be really careful, because anything that happens out there reflects badly on us as a people group. But he was visibly concerned about the immigration issue. And he said, you guys have got to do something about that. And so it was really surprising. I would not have, I go to a lot of groups, obviously, that are Republican or conservative and stuff, but I don't know where these folks are politically. I've never talked politics really with them before. I just was getting together with them to kind of shoot the breeze and catch up. And that was what was front of mind. And, I go a lot of places and people are just really concerned about it. And what I think they're really seeing, if I could put it in the term, is the ransacking of America. The ransacking of America. And they're very concerned about it. And it's interesting, this is a state office, but if you looked at my email, it is just overrun with emails from people that are just panicked, very worried, very concerned. And so I really feel like that right now, front of mind is absolutely is immigration.
Wow.
Followed only by the national debt.
Really? How about that? It's not surprising, really, given what's going on in our country. But as you said, from a state office perspective, you might think it might be something different. But I think what your folks in your district are concerned about, a lot of people are concerned about. I'll be honest with you, I'm concerned about it. Look, when you have, and I'm not, telling you anything you don't know, but when you have a border that has no controls and you have people coming here, not as refugees anymore, but just coming here to do Lord knows what, harm, it feels like we're being invaded, if I could use that word, and we're not defending ourselves. And
Yep.
that's scary stuff.
Yep.
To me.
Oh yeah, there's no question it is. And when you see the crime, like the different things that make the news that are happening, and then you combine that with no bail in some places, they're recently turning people loose all over. That's why Gray Mills ran a bill this last year that I think was so important. And I know this one is sitting in the Senate right now. I'm hoping that we'll bring it up in the short session. But he did a bill that would require our sheriffs to work with ICE. And so we have 100 sheriffs, and I think like 94 of them do, but we've got several that don't. And we really need to change that. And so I'm really hoping that bill will come up in the short session in the Senate, and we'll get that thing passed and moved on through. I think it's a bill that the vast majority of North Carolina citizens would like to see, because just as I said, immigration is on front of mind.
Yeah, and you know what I struggle with sometimes, Representative Zenger? I'm a person of faith. I'm an ordained minister and all of that. And, the Bible talks about taking care of the poor and the refugee and all of this. But this don't feel like that. This doesn't feel like, folks that are hungry and need to be fed, and then they're definitely, seeking out shelter. And this is something completely different. And the fact that our nation is not, our administration or whoever is not doing anything to protect our people, that's just wrong, in my opinion. And so, my opinion, in $5 to get you a cup of coffee, but that's just the way I feel. So I'm concerned about this issue, just as your people are. And let me kind of use that as a springboard, a launching pad into a bill that you have that is very important, that was passed in the House, and hopefully the Senate will take it up. House Bill 463. We heard a lot about farmland. I just interviewed Representative Stephen Ross, and he had a bill that would help family farmers put their farms in a trust to help conserve that and preserve that farmland, which was a very practical idea. But on a broader basis, we've got people, nations like China, buying farmland next to military installations. What in the world? And I want to ask the people that are selling what are you doing? But you've got a bill that would address this issue. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we did a bill that, like you said, House Bill 463, and John Bell, the speaker, was on it as well, Speaker Moore, and Jennifer Bulk, and the four of us did it. And it was a bill to stop that, to stop the sale of our farmland to China. And it's a bill that's sitting over in the Senate. I kind of hope that the Senate will take it and put even more teeth in it. Again, this goes back to put more teeth into it, send it back to us so we can approve it and get it moving. But again, this goes along with the whole immigration thing. People are feeling defenseless. They're feeling like our nation is being ransacked. And this is just another one of those spots where it's happening. And, it's almost like we're being told, we're ransacking your house and it's for your own good. And people aren't buying that. And so at least the majority are not. And so this bill would help with that. I think there's still more that we have to do. I think there's some other businesses and stuff that are here in the state that are Chinese communist owned, and they're not here to be our buddies. They're here to defeat us. And so I think we need to be very, very wise. But we need to start to expose as much of this as possible. Our farmers are the most patriotic people in the country, as far as I'm concerned. And I think if we get out to them the knowledge of what businesses there are and so on, they'll automatically start to find ways to go elsewhere. We just got to get the information out. And then additionally, we need to pass state legislation to it. And that's one thing, I'll follow up with all of this stuff. These are national issues, and it's coming down to us on the state. And I think we're getting to a point where, as a state, and every state is going to have to start to reread the 10th Amendment and start to really think about what we're doing. You're seeing Texas is starting to do that, and a few other states, because it just seems like Washington is not going to fix itself.
I was going to ask you, it's a good segue. Probably when you first came to Raleigh, you might have been thinking about teacher pay and education and healthcare and infrastructure, but all of a sudden you're having to also think about what are normally national issues. So you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, it's a lot all the time. I love it. I love sinking into all of those issues. I work in a tremendous amount of regulatory reform things, which are great for business. But at the same time, like I said, if you looked at my inbox for my state email, it is just overrun with emails about federal issues, because people are seeing what's going on and they want someone to take some action. And so I think that's something that, as we move on in the future, we're going to have to look for more opportunities to chip away at some of these things to start to make a difference.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question as we wind up here. And this is kind of I don't know, maybe a rhetorical kind of a thing. But as you sit as a member of the legislature, I was looking at the news over the past few days, and there are these ominous headlines that say, you know, child care industry doesn't have enough workers, and the people with that give care to those that have disabilities, we don't have enough workers. There was a headline today where they're trying to say that teacher retention is at the lowest level in years, and you know they always throw that headline out there, and then they have to break it down over the next week or so and find out a lot of that is retirement. And it's not that teachers are angry about North Carolina, which the left tries to portray. But nevertheless, uh, along with all this other stuff that we've talked about that you've got to think about and address as a member, does it seem overwhelming sometimes to read these headlines and to know that, you know, even though the budget is several billions and billions of dollars, you can't do everything, you know? That's
Well,
gonna be
I think
tough.
I think what's really interesting is government is finally struggling with what the private sector's had to struggle with in the past. You know, when the economy has been good or bad or whatever, government has just kind of continued to move on. Employment has been steady and it's been fine. Well, you know, yeah, we have shortages of all of those things you mentioned. We also have shortages of electricians, HVAC guys. We got you go to any business, and they need help.
Yeah.
Restaurants are short. I mean, just name the business, and they're all looking for people. Combine that with another headline that came out this week that said 70% of the federal budget expenditures is for entitlements.
Wow.
Man, I wonder if that has any kind of connection, huh? You know, we have got a real problem. I was explaining to somebody yesterday. I said, you know, it's kind of interesting because the economy is starting to slow down a little bit, but we can't find any work, and that's different. If you go back 100 years when we went into the Depression, there was no Social Security, there was no welfare, there was no housing program, there was no nothing. And, you know, people, you know, remember the biggest social program, I guess there was the, what was it, the CCC that FDR did, where he had people build the parks, you know, and you know, that's when the Blue Ridge Parkway got built because he was putting people to work.
Yeah.
So we've got a real problem here. A lot of us, like myself, are reaching retirement age, and we don't have people to backfill, and it's a big deal. And I don't think it's as simple as, well, we just need to spend more money in the budget. I don't think it's that simple.
Yeah.
I think it's a much more complex issue. And I have to tell you, you know, it's one of those things where I say, yeah, it's a complex issue. I don't have the answer. I think, though, there's going to have to be a lot of conversations around that because we are desperate for people to work. And it's almost like we've gotten to the point where work is frowned upon, and, you know, you shouldn't have to work. You know, I mean, shoot, Bernie Sanders is out there saying, hey, let's reduce the work week to 32 hours on top of what we're seeing. I mean, that's gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. 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 You know, I was in a restaurant recently. I like to go with a friend and watch the Carolina Hurricanes play hockey. About once every 2 weeks, we'll go out and try to find wings or whatever. And there's a very popular wings franchise that they can't ever seem to have enough staff. And we quit going there because we walk in and literally, I'm not exaggerating, their dining room is closed. You know, and here it is,
Yeah.
a big night, and what's going on? Well, we just can't find anybody to work. And
Yeah.
that mentality blows my mind. So, as you said, it's not just government; it's business. It's pervasive. That somehow working is a bad word.
Not to one up you, but I've been in the construction business for years, and I need some people to work on a house for me. I can't get anybody. I've been waiting for 7 months, and I can't get anybody. I can't get anybody to even return my phone calls. And the reason is they have more than they can possibly handle. They need people.
Wow.
And so it's literally, there's not one single business owner that I have talked to in my district that said, hey, we're good with employees. None. Not one. So it is everywhere. It's not isolated to any one industry.
Well, we're living in interesting times, but I, for one, am glad that you are part of the legislature here in North Carolina to help us navigate these interesting waters and things that we may never have experienced before as a as a nation and as a state. Representative Zenger, as always, thank you very much for being our guest on In the House.
I'm glad to be here, Mark, and thank you for having me. Thank you for what you do. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you have a great day.